may be having a tiny conversation with AI these days, and I just realized it. Um, so I talked a while ago on Substack about wanting to have a writer's resource list. I started that very naively thinking about like books, learning, like what should you have around. At the time, I was doing a lot of typing, pantsing, not plotted, not organized in any way, on the novel that I've been working on. And I would open things like Thesaurus, sort of the Merriam-Webster online sort of version, a lot. So I was thinking about things like that, I think originally, and then it branched off into things that could improve my writing. So then I was like, okay, I'm going to read Stephen King's On Writing. I went through some various iterations, and then I settled more into tools that I could use as a sort of daily practice to improve my writing. One of those was Writing Battle, and I've done a couple flash fiction. I've had a couple of experiences now writing flash fiction, which I would really recommend for people who are trying to do this. I'm going to sit and write a novel thing, because I don't think we're experienced in the way that, say, a journalist is with working with tight word count, where you have to keep boiling it down and boiling it down, and maybe it's not working, and you go back and forth, and you sort of at the end come up with the strongest thing. And I did that very poorly, but I'm working on it, and I'll get a little better at it. So I had that experience. Since then, I was working on there's an open call. It's open right now, actually, until the 30th of June, for submissions to Lemon Jelly. Lemon Jelly Publishing, Lemon Jelly Press, I'll link it or something, who are going to be publishing a pamphlet or a digest in August, on the theme of By Morning the Sea Had Taken It. And they've even published the cover, which is a beautiful cover. I think that was created by one of the principals of that company, and she did an online workshop with writers, and the prompt was 500 word anything, and the last line is By Morning the Sea Had Taken It. So I was working with that prompt too, because like I said, they since put the open call because they're going to publish a pamphlet. And I went back and forth. I wrote it as just free form on here, where I kept coming back to it like a refrain, almost like when you're in church and you the minister will say something, and then everyone will answer back, peace be with you, or whatever. Like I'd say something, and then I'd say By Morning the Sea Had Taken It. I'd say some other thing. I'd say By Morning the Sea Had Taken It. And I was just doing that to kind of get it going. And then I went off and I wrote the piece, and I wrote it in present tense. I had a lot of trouble making that work with By Morning the Sea Had Taken It. I also had every problem that I'd written in my original essay, which was just a mess, because it was everything in my life, and I wanted the sea to take it all. So I did like 2 or 3 versions like that, kind of trying to sharpen it, trying to shape it, trying to fit it in the 500 words, what's going, what's staying. It was mixed together with another prompt that I had been using that day when I wrote the original essay on Substack. I'll get to that in a minute, which is the reason I jumped on here, and I will get to it. Anyhow, and then I realized I had to take some parts out. I talked to a very dear friend of mine who always reads my work and gives wonderful, thoughtful, like really caring, like commentary. It's not just like, oh, I like it, or oh, it's not for me. Like, she'll stop and she'll say, why did the character choose to do this? I wanted more of that. I like this. I don't like that. And we have, and I almost want to record her, and it's just great. So she read the piece, and she came to visit one day. She brought me muffins, and we sat and we talked, and she gave me her thoughts, and then I went, I know what I need to do. And I went off and I made the character better, you know. I mean, I had the beach in my mind, but the character wasn't clear because it was kind of everything in my life, and I sort of, I have the backstory of this character a little more now. I can write the thing, and so I did that. I think it had been a poem. I brought it back to being prose, and he had, like, I went through, and then at the end I realized, it's a tense problem, and I wrote it again in a new tense, and I finally sent it off. Have no idea if it'll be in the pamphlet. I would love if it was, but I still have my phone lock screen and what do you call the back wallpaper of my phone now is that the beautiful cover that's designed for that pamphlet, and I can dream. I like the cover anyway, so, and it's changed all the color scheme of my phone, and I'm enjoying that right now. All of that to say, so I started using Substack's a great resource for writers because you can connect with things like Lemon Jelly Press. I found on here. There's another one that comes up in my feed a lot, Aphrodite Press. I think that they might be like a literary agency as well, but they seem to be really looking for writers right now, and so you can sort of start to build from there. And there are, specific things like Chill Subs and stuff on here too that are really great, resources that I would recommend. But resources I started working with every day. Like I said, okay, I'm going to make my flash fiction better, and the word writing battle led to taking this submission seriously, and for once in my life, making really heartfelt submission that I had actually edited, and I'd done multiple revisions on it and stuff, complete rewrites. Went from prose to poetry, back to prose, changed tense and changed who it was, and took out a prompt that had nothing to do with it that I put in because I stuck them together in my mind. Anyhow, another resource that I've been using every day to write is 750 Words, which, if you don't know what the illusion there is, that's alluding to something from Julia Cameron's The Artist Way. She says one of the principal things in The Artist Way, even if you don't do the 12 weeks of like prescribed deep diving into like the theme and doing these exercises, and there's shadow work built into it and stuff, she does say there are two primary things. There are artist dates, which is you take yourself out, you do artistic thing, like I'm walking around Michael's today, I'm going to pick up 5 things that I think are really cool and bring them home and do something with them, I don't know what. Or like I want to be alone, I want to walk on this path and go to a cafe and visit this weird art gallery or whatever. Like it's just like a little date with yourself, that's creative. Making time for that, for allowing that person to have value, which is yourself, that's great. And the other thing is morning pages, which is something you're supposed to do every day, preferably in the morning. And it's just you sit and in longhand you write out your 3 pages and you get all your gobbledygook out. Sometimes it's brilliant and insightful, and sometimes it's just emptying out the crap, so then you can go be creative, and it's not just a hex dump of all the stuff that was in your brain, like what you need to do today and who you're mad at, and I didn't sleep, gross, or whatever. So you write all that down in your morning pages, and then you're done. It's out. It's over with. Since that book came out in the 90s, I think I'd read that book sometime within the first decade when it was written. I'm not super young. So I read that book, and that became part of my practice. For me, I wouldn't even say it's part of my creative practice. It's almost like if I have time for that in my life, I'm healthier. That's mental hygiene for me. It helps me. I don't know in what ways I'm neurodivergent, but I'm definitely neurodivergent. I maybe have some little bit of, I'm undiagnosed, and I don't mean to say any, I won't diagnose myself because it does a disservice to people who have genuine diagnoses, but I probably do have some diagnoses that I haven't dealt with. And anyway, I go and I write them, and that feels like really good mental hygiene. I feel calmer, and I feel more ready to deal with my day, and I feel like some things have been compartmentalized. I've got little pigeonholes where I put that, and I can come back and I can talk about it later, and I don't have to talk about it all day long to everybody I see now. Like, I can be a little bit less obsessive because I can take my obsessions and I can put them into morning pages. So now that I have time for myself and I'm trying to be healthy, that's something that I do, and I sort of call it my mental hygiene practice. You know, some people go meditate. I got to go do the morning pages, and I don't even longhand write them, which is bad because it's actually accessing a different part of your brain. Your brain lights up all over when you do things in your own handwriting, whereas when you do it in here, you tend to forget about it. But this works really well for me, and so I have this practice of I write them. Now I write them on 750 page words, because 750 words is approximately 3 pages. That's what it's about. It's about doing your morning pages, doing your work. So I type on 750 words. You get like confetti on the screen when you get to your 750 words. They have some little prompts. So I signed up for this prompt that's at the top of my thing every day, and it's the Merriam-Webster word of the day. So today it was deleterious. And I ended up writing my whole thing about something that I think is deleterious to my life right now, which is AI, how it's creeping into everything. But I realized that 750 words is part of that problem. 750 words, I love it. But I'm writing into the cloud, and that stuff is stored somewhere, and that means probably AI. I've been inviting AI to go through it, because they have this cute little thing called, like, would you like me to silly robot or whatever, and it says, would you like me to summarize your entry on the stats page? By the way, the stats page is like the worst thing ever, because it's telling me I'm sad or I'm angry or whatever, and I mean, it doesn't know, like, if you say you watch the movie Kill Bill, it'll say, oh, she used the word kill, you know. It doesn't understand things. So yeah. But I've been using this little like silly robot, and then it'll say, oh, today you talked about, you know, it's like coffee, bike rides, and to-do list or something, like, and you ended with your usual determination to get things done, period. And I'm like, oh, that's cute. And then it says, would you like me to dive deeper? And it's like a little green button that says deep dive, and you press it, and it uses point something of an AI credit, yes, to give you a report. And they're fun. And I look now, and I started using it at the end of March. So April, May, June, I've been using it maybe 3 months. I've generated like, I don't know, 10 of these reports now. 10 times I've done it. And that's fine, money-wise, but now I tend to like look at it like I'm burning a desert somewhere, like there's little beetles that aren't going to survive now because of me or something. Also, what am I getting out of this? Because I'm starting to notice the language and the way that it talks to me about my writing and stuff, and it is very sycophantic. It does, it's just an echo chamber. It's not a person reading it. It's not Alice reading it. It's not Alice saying, get your nose out of your navel and get on with your life. Like, it's, you know, it's an AI. It's a non-human thing that thinks in some sort of weird gobbledygook language or numbers or something that even the people who created it don't understand. They say now it's like an alien that we've created that lives on Earth. That's terrifying. And I'm asking it to read my writing. Like, what am I doing? What am I doing? And it's telling me, oh, your usual like self-effacing wit, and you're self-aware this, and you're this, that, but I'm not that self-aware because I'm coming back in a week and getting another report. Like, what am I doing? What am I doing? So I need to stop doing that. and I do like getting like the word of the day and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, I was reading the little word of the day prompt, and I was like, I don't think a human wrote this either. Sometimes it doesn't quite make sense. Like, you'll say something and it gets like oppositeville. I was talking about my son was building a gazebo with his business partner, and his business partner's family is Rwandan, and the summary said the Rwandan gazebo, and I'm just like, yeah, no, that's not how that works. That's not how things work. That's not how geography works. The gazebo's in Ottawa, you know, like, definitely, it's definitely not Rwandan. And you know, just I don't know, I've lost my train of thought, but you get it, right? You get it. What are we all doing? And so I was watching this Strathlas video about he was trying to find cause for optimism around AI. He didn't find much, but one thing that he did say was that we're all making the mistake of talking about AI like it's one thing, like here's the AI, and all the good things like AlphaFold, which figured out the protein folding problem, which gave the structure, opened the structure of like 500,000 proteins, like all of a sudden, a problem people have been working on for like 50 years. And now they can do things like they're making like microbes that eat plastic, or they have a malaria vaccine now. Like all these good things happen because of AlphaFold, which is an AI developed by Google, I forget what it's called, but it has something to do with Google anyhow, and AlphaFold came of that, and that's a good thing. That's a great thing. There's nobody, no matter how anti-technology or what a Luddite you are, is going to say that's bad. It rides on the back of all those researchers who did all those things before, and it doesn't take away from the credit of the people who took that then and developed a bacteria that eats garbage or found a vaccine for malaria. They also still get the credit. But isn't it great? It's so much faster to have AI solve, and this is what AI is good for, this is what AI is good for. My son, sometimes he'll get it to like draft a contract, but he still has to read that contract and make sure he's not giving somebody a guarantee because Google AI said to do it, that it's completely unreasonable for him and it's going to cause him grief. You still have to do, but I mean, he doesn't like doing contracts or legal stuff. So, maybe, sometimes you ask AI, because it can look at all the stores real quick and it can tell you where a good deal is. And those are good uses of AI to free us up from stupid things we don't want to spend all day doing. I think we can all agree on that, right? But do we want to pay with our privacy, our democracy, our environment? Do we want to pay in genocide, in the blood of children? Because AI also does all that stuff. And when we just say AI, like we have to take the good with the bad, we're giving up our agency. And I'm thinking right now, when Google messages me and says, oh, your Google storage for your pictures that are backed up in the cloud, we're rebranding it. Now it's called Google AI. You get this many credits a month. Here's what you can do. I need a meme generator. That's the most important thing I need. And I'm agreeing to they make my photos do things. I'm like, I didn't ask AI to look at my photos. That terrifies me. They know the faces of my children. They know the names of my pets. Get out, So now I'm thinking I should just go buy a 2 terabyte hard drive and not even have, I shouldn't be using, I don't want AI credits. If Google wants to be rebranded as Google AI, maybe that's not a service I want. Maybe it's time to opt out. And maybe we need to start doing that a little bit more so they get the message, man. It's mine. It's not yours. It's mine. It's mine. I just didn't want to lose it in a fire. Okay? But it's mine. And this kind of stuff really bothers me. When I separated from my now ex-husband, and this is 10 years ago, it's a long time ago, he took he would back up and organize. He's a computer guy. He would back up all the little SD cards that we took our photos and little videos on at the time. We didn't have any AI storage. I didn't have all these accounts and cloud things and everything. I had very little say in those kind of things when I was married. And he would just put it on his computer and he'd say year and he'd have the month and he'd have all the pictures and all the videos and stuff in there. I left him when my kids were 5 and 7. And he kept everything and he never shared it. So I have not one picture, not one video, not one anything. All the creative projects I did, I had some really cool puppet videos that used to be online. Recordings of me playing chamber music with people. It's all gone because he had control over it all. And when I said, can I have it? He said no. Actually, he didn't even reply. My lawyers asked him about 5 times for that stuff. And the only stuff that I still have is the stuff that was uploaded to the cloud, and then it would come down as a Facebook memory, and I would go, and I'd grab it. So I have a tiny crumbs. And I was super glad to Facebook and super glad to the cloud. But what price is too high a price to pay for having cloud storage? I think we might be getting close to that price, right? So on that note, and then at the end, I did a really ironic thing, and I did it fully aware that it was ironic because I wanted to see what the silly robot would make of it. I asked for the deep dive summary of that entry that I wrote today on 750 words, which was the 750 word version of this, of being fed up, of being skeptical, of being concerned about a lot of things that are happening with AI and with our privacy, with how they could shut down your banking in a minute, like, or turn off your lights, like what's going on with the world. A little bit, I've had my anxiety meltdown. I put it in there, and I did the deep dive, and it completely ironically answered, still talking as if it's a person, even like recognizing that I'm saying all these things like it's not a person, and it's still talking like it's not. I'm not talking about it, because it doesn't know. It can't get offended. I don't even know. I don't know what to say. But it did recommend some reading and some different stuff at the end, and it always does this. By the way, it always says, this thing is doing a lot of emotional heavy lifting. It says that every single time. I would caution you now, if somebody sends you an email or a message and says anything about emotional heavy lifting, I would right away be suspicious. That is AI. It also always compares me to a bird. I was a secretary bird, and I was a magpie, and I forget what kind of bird I was today, because I frankly don't even want to be birds anymore, especially these exotic ones. Come on, I'm a Newfoundlander. I'd be like an owl or a puffin or something, like F off, or at least a loon after living in Ontario so long. Anyhow, birds aside, it always recommends like about 3 books, or it recommends like watch some CBC series or something like that, because it knows I'm Canadian and that I care about that too. So it tries. And today it said, I bet you talked about Solarpunk. I bet you haven't read Psalm for the Wild-Built. And I have a surprise for them. I have. I've read Psalm for the Wild-Built, and I encourage you today, if you do like the idea of a post AI apocalypse future where we do have our abundant gardens, and our rainwater collected, and our rooftop solar, and everybody has enough to eat, and everybody, regardless of your health status, your whatever status, your gender pronouns, whatever, is entitled to a life and a cozy home and stuff, and then you partake in society and give back in the way that's best suited to you, and society still runs because some people like fixing plumbing. Some people want to make sure that their grandmother's lights still turn on, right? Like it somehow works, and everybody is pretty happy. People still have their little existential things, but it's a solar punk. I'd love to see it become a little film. I don't know if it's going to become a film, but Psalm for the Wild-Built will be in my next little book review too, and I would encourage you to go read that one. And according to AI, you can read it in an afternoon because it's only a novella. It's not super long. That is true. Anyhow, that's just random thoughts because I hopped on feeling frustrated, and I don't know if anybody watches my videos anyway. To the one person that does, because you love me, thank you for being so patient and watching me rant for 25 minutes. And if you're anybody else and you are interested in this stuff, you can leave a comment, and you can read more of the things that I write here on Substack. Yeah, maybe we should brainstorm about what we can all do about some of this stuff. Meanwhile, I'll be back at my community garden, still trying to grow cilantro and pole beans, and still signing up with Fair Vote Canada to try to get proportional representation so we can have good and an overseen government that is answerable to the people, and then we can work on things like universal basic income and the kind of future that we want, that's AI free and with clean air and bike lanes and all that good stuff. Okay, that's it. That's my rant. See you later. Bye.